Welcome to my channel. I will show you how I started to color in my newest book, Cinderella by Amandine Jung. And among my interesting pictures which I want to color in this book, I selected a page where Cinderella went to the stables to meet her horse, her friend Mimi, and maybe to feed birds which we have around, all those chickens, rooster, the duckling and their mother. Also here we have a very cute mouse and cat. Also on this page I want to test bigger variety of art supplies. Already on the test page I tested Prismacolor pencils and Sucolor pencils. This paper, it has quite smooth surface, so I am sure that it could be great to color in this book with alcohol-based markers. Unfortunately, I don't have them, so I was curious also how my watercolor paints would behave on such a smooth paper. And actually, they behaved very well. I decided that I will do a very simple underpaint, just a little bit of blue paint on the sky, maybe a little bit of light yellow or light beige on the ground, on the sand, and maybe a very light layer of brown on the walls of the stables to make a base for the wood. First I was a little bit afraid because printing ink, it slightly repelled the pigment of watercolor paint, but then I realized that I simply need to apply a little bit more of paint and lesser amount of water and to spread my watercolor paints nicely. And everything worked really well. You know that quite often when we work in coloring books with watercolor paints or with water-based medium, sometimes we can get ugly stains on the paper when paper absorbs pigment very quickly, so you are not able to blend paints, to spread them over the desired area. Here there wasn't any problems at all, so I was able to blend paints directly on the paper. I was able to delete excessive pigment with clear brush and water if I wanted to. I was able to do glazing when I added additional amounts of water. Paper is thick, so I never was afraid to damage the surface of the paper. So it's really good way to start coloring in this book because we have many scenes, many landscapes where to do the whole background with pencils. It could be quite a long way of coloring, and I think that to do first layer with paints it's a little bit more economical probably. Also, there are some brands of pencils, for example Kohinoor polycolor pencils, which have quite good range of colors, but they are harder comparing to our regular wax-based pencils, and they require paper with tooth, so on such a smooth paper they wouldn't work nicely. But on top, on the first watercolor layer, they worked really well, so it's another way to start working with the pencils which usually don't like very smooth paper. So apply first layer of watercolors and then start to experiment with pencils. Here you can see that I did a very simple sky. Then I used darker color, I used sepia inside of the stables, around the head of the Mimi horse, and couple of shades of more reddish brown to do the basic layer for the wood on the walls of the stables. When I select colors and media for my next coloring project, of course I take into consideration the quality of the paper, but I also think about style of the picture. If we compare Cinderella's illustrations from Selina Fenwick, which I also started, and from Amandine Jung, they are made in totally different styles. Picture by Amandine reminds me about cartoons, about illustrations in children's book, so I deliberately wanted to use slightly more intense, maybe excessively bright colors to make it really look like a children's illustration. Here I didn't think about a very realistic coloring, about doing a very careful texture everywhere. I tried to concentrate on the main characters and everything which we have on the background, like stone wall or tree. I colored it in more simplified way. For example, for the leaves on the tree, I simply selected a lighter and darker shade of green without adding brown or blue for shading or doing carefully texture of the leaves. No, I deliberately didn't want to do it. Also, on the stone wall around the gates, I decided to use colder shades of grey for the main area of the wall, trying to put a lighter shade of grey near the upper part, which is more highlighted by the sun, and using darker shade of grey near the ground and around the gates. For the stones, I switched to warm shades of grey colors. It's good that in color set we have not a bad selection of grey colors, and you can choose a range of cold grey pencils from lighter to darker and warm grey pencils. Also we have greenish grey, brownish grey. So grey range is one of the reasons why I like color pencils. So for the stones I used a warmer shades of grey, and later I also added reflections of the sunshine using cream or light yellow pencils on top of the stones, on the middle part of the uh, not a garden, on the area near the Cinderella, on the ground, and on top of the gates. Because I already had my first layer of colors which I put with watercolor paints on the ground and on the wall of the stables, it was quite easy to select similar color of pencils to intensify color where I wanted to do shadows. For example, behind the head of the horse in the corners of the stables, I put color which is a couple of shades darker comparing to the watercolor I applied. But I also selected slightly different shades of color. For example, I have several browns from light to dark to create texture of the wood, and then I added one more reddish brown to have some additional color accents on the wood. The same for the ground. I used a little bit of beige, a little bit of yellow, maybe we have ground and sand. Also added a little bit of light green, maybe we have a little bit of grass also. So these small color accents, they helped me to make big areas of the background which we have here less plain, more interesting to look at. And in the same time I tried to use quite a light colors because I didn't want to distract attention from the girl, from the horse, from the birds. And I hope that in such way I will be able to color all the pictures in this book. I already mentioned that my next project I want to color Cinderella in the kitchen where she's sorting uh, coal from the lentils probably, but for that page I want to use acrylic paints for the background. There I need a lot of grace, so maybe it will have to wait until I will be reunited with my gouache paints and with my acrylic paints. I also think that for several pictures in this book I will experiment with my metal and pearlescent watercolors. I think about page when fairy godmother turned pumpkin in the carriage. Probably there I can use some of my metal of watercolors for the carriage, and maybe for some other pages I also will continue to experiment with various media. I decided that these color long I will turn into speed coloring without posting all the pencil names. I think that if you want to color something similar, you will easily find such simple bright colors in each and every pencil brands. I think that here I didn't have to notice all the pencil names, but probably the next color along I will do more slowly with all pencil tags. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you will like the final look of this page.